Hi film people, my name is Henry Hodge. I'm a cinematographer and executive producer based in Prague, Czech Republic. And today I would like to share with you the behind the scenes process for one of my last company music videos that was all a continuous one take. A local based independent band called ReadyMade Backsliders contacted me to do this music video. So they contacted me with a concept of this one take video, including a lot of blocking, staging, slow motion and normal motion, as well as exterior and interior, all in one take. So the concept of the story follows a man who falls out with his love and he dismisses her, walks up back into his apartment from the street, goes through this dreamlike state into this party environment where he sees these couples and basically people having fun. Then he basically realizes that he's made a mistake and he goes back to get her. So the visual concept follows the camera moving from outside the apartment complex into the hallway, up the stairs and into this apartment where the camera mostly follows the main artist and observes these different scenes taking place, and then goes back out down the hallway and then outside the apartment again. So the two big questions: how did we go about pulling it off, and how did the experience go? So first of all, we had 2 nice weeks to prepare for it. Quite a simple shoot in terms of its location, just in one place in the artist's apartment. So in this music video, the artist already came with a concept and a rough script, and from there we basically together made a technical script where we had all the exact timings to the beats of the music with the visuals and where the camera would roughly be at what time. The very next thing we did was immediately arrange a technical scout when all the key crew members were available. So the first and most important thing I needed to do in a tech scout is go with the gaffer and basically check all the light levels outside the apartment, in the hallways, at every step of going through the hallway, and then in every single room that the camera is going to pass through in the apartment, and just see what the levels are reading at as the light is coming through the window, and then start discovering what lights are already there, if they work for us, if they're causing flickering. And especially in the communal hallway of an apartment complex, we have to combat the automatic lights that switch on when you walk in that are usually pretty undesirable. So we had to then find where the power box was located so that the gaffer could actually completely switch off the power to the lights that we don't want to work. And on top of that, we wanted to pick the darkest, cloudiest day possible for the softest, obviously darkest light to be outside for the exposure when we're coming from outside to inside, and then vice versa. And then also when we're going through the apartment, it balances the levels of the light a lot more when there's a lot darker diffused light coming through those windows, so that when we expose to the area inside, there's not a big difference from the level of light that's coming from outside. Then we decided to make this kind of paste with flour and water and then put it over the window, and this acted as a bit of a dimmer, dimming the light that was coming through the main windows. And then in some of the other rooms we used these semi-transparent curtains and then just drew them over the window, which darkened and diffused further the light coming through. Even with this, there was still quite the difference of the level of lights. The outside was a lot of stops brighter than the inside. Basically, when we're outside, I had to be at like aperture T22. And then as we move through the first doorway to go inside, I immediately have to have one hand on the aperture ring and then slide it as wide open as it can get, and then do it really smoothly so that you don't even notice. But this did make it really tough, you know. It's handheld, so I'm holding the camera with one hand. I'm trying to adjust the aperture ring with the other hand, and as soon as we're inside, once the aperture is open to its fullest, which is a T2.8, we now have very visible depth of field. So my hand immediately has to go to the focus ring to make sure that everything is in focus. We also explored the idea of having visual effects for hidden transitions going through the rooms, but it was honestly too complicated. We couldn't afford the appropriate VFX supervisor to make sure that things would really work. And then with the layout of the apartment, it was already very spacious and allowed us to completely move through and do what we wanted in one take. So in this video we had a lot of moving parts, we had a lot of extras, and people had to be in certain positions on exactly the right times, and it was all going to be timed really, really well. So we did lots of rehearsals. I had quite a lot of pre-production meetings to really go over all the blocking with the director, and then we had a few dedicated separate evenings just to go through all the timing and just play the music and just see where the camera would be. And so we all just got really familiar with the song, with the beats, and most importantly, we just did not have the spare budget to mess up on the shoot. So the next thing on my list that I did was the health and safety assessment sheet, and it's relatively simple, but I basically take a sheet that I print out and I identify some issues with the locations and anything that can be a hazard to the people, tripping over things, and pretty much getting everybody to acknowledge these risks. So we had a very minimalist, small crew. We had the main singer as the director of the shoot, we had the DOP, we had a first AD, we had the gaffer, hair and makeup, and then just a behind the scenes video guy. So the very next thing that I do is streamline the project all online and communicate it in the app Milanote. So the look I wanted to go for as a cinematographer was a bit of a kind of punk rock, natural contrasty look with a bit of grain and a bit of a hazy look. The color theory I wanted to go for was mostly analogous, and basically this means that all the colors are existing in one particular range of the color palette, and the color palette we wanted to go for was green, brown, blue and orange. The light ratio we were aiming for was generally around 6:1, and then for the light ratio we wanted to go for something that felt really natural. So we wanted to basically have the natural light of the backgrounds separating the subject. The target data rate for the project was about 400 gigabytes for all the takes. The format we shot in was in 6K at 50 frames per second. We just shot the whole thing in slow motion and sped up the parts we wanted in normal motion. We kept the whole shot in a 180-degree shutter angle, and then we did it in a spherical 16:9 aspect ratio. So the equipment we used, which came from the wonderful biofilms, was the Red Epic W Helium. We used the Cooke S4i mini lens set, a manual follow focus attached onto the rig. We used a clamp-on matte box with a French flag. We used an easy rig to take a lot of the weight off of the camera and add a bit of stabilization to the handheld shot. We had wireless headsets for the key crew members. We had a clapperboard for syncing the audio, and I brought my own digital H5 zoom recorder for scratch audio. And then we had a haze machine. So for the lighting, it was quite interesting because we had pretty much no stands. We had all these lights just propped up in different locations. We had an Aperture MC4 kit. We had 4 Nanlite Pavo tubes. We had Astera bulbs, we had Aperture bulbs, and then we also had clamps, diffusion, reflection, black flags to cut some light if we needed to. So let's talk about the shoot itself and the post-production. So the first thing we did after picking up the gear and getting it onto set was, for me, I immediately went to my DIT station, building the camera, testing out the different lenses in the lens kit to see which focal length was working out the best. And then the gaffer immediately went to set up all the lights in all the areas that we had planned on. Even with all of the meticulous rehearsing we did, the first 3/4 of the takes were all disastrous for their own individual reasons. So pretty much something was going wrong every single time. But then after 3/4 of the take attempts, we got that one perfect take. Everyone was so happy. And then from there, every single take to the end of the shoot was absolutely perfect. And then we wrapped. I also wanted to give a shout out to the food on set and the director and singer artist Peter for really being good with the food. And seriously, like the mood and the morale of everybody on the set was so damn cool. Then I wanted to mention Vasily with the color grading. Holy moly, he did a really great job with this. First of all, I'm really happy how accurately he got the kind of film stock look. But then also one thing he did is that he created these power windows in the different locations. He then animated and tracked the power window with the camera move so that the changes of the light would only exist in that room and you basically wouldn't notice it, and the transition is essentially invisible. So to conclude this video, I would say this is one of my most efficient shoots I've actually ever been on. And one of the things I like the most is that it was just a really fun shoot and everyone just had a really good time. So that's it everybody, I really hope you liked this video. Subscribe to the channel for more videos. Feel free to give your feedback in the comments, and cheers. Have a great day.